experiences where students can broaden their knowledge through the experience with hands-on activities. So let's start the So we'll start off at Burr Oak. We started off with a trip to the Adler Planetarium, and everything you're going to see is a picture of a student or a group of students and parents that joined us on the event. So Burr Oak went to Adler Planetarium to start for the 3rd grade level. Next we had the actual Museum of Science and Industry coming into the school for Curiosity Stations, it's called. And students created optical illusions, and they also dissected, I think it was sheep's eyes. So there were 2 members from the Science and Industry Museum that came over and worked with our students. Next, coming up, we have the Windy City Thunderbolts game, which is next week, and we have medieval times, and that's for Burr Oak. So for Burr Oak Academy, all of our bilingual, and then this is actually Burr Oak Academy and Burr Oak School. We sent all the students to the Mexican Fine Arts Museum to go down and experience Mexican art. Next, we had a reptile show come into our facility. So students got to view different reptiles. There were snakes and turtles and etc. there. And this program comes in from a school-based program that services a lot of the area. So we were able to see them. 1st grade went to the Museum of Science and Industry. Burr Oak Academy also, I had the pleasure of going with the whole group. We went to the Brookfield Zoo along with 50 parents. So it was pretty great to have quite a support group from the parents. So they got to go around and our chaperones. That was one of our largest events. Now for the middle school.
So guys, I don't have on my glasses, and I should wear them all the time, and I never have them on. So I cannot see either screen, but that's okay. So the first one is Springfield. So our 8th graders took their yearly trip to Springfield. So we went to the Capitol, Brookfield Zoo. 2 weeks ago, we went to the Brookfield Zoo. So the students talked about habitat. So we had a little conversation in the science class, especially 7th grade, in regards to habitat and what it means for them to actually be in Chicago versus being in their natural habitat. Museum of Science and Industry, our 8th graders went there just to explore, and they also saw Pompeii. And that's it. So our 8th graders also went to Law Day, so they went downtown. It was actually a competition, so they wrote entries, and we had one student who win $500, another student who win $250. I believe that's it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Brown and Drown. Next on our agenda is the presentation of the 3-year strategic plan. So just some background, the district embarked on creating a strategic plan back in December. And this plan was designed to give our district guidance and direction based on, you can pass it out, John. It was designed to give our district guidance and some direction based on the feedback from our stakeholders. So I'm really excited to present this document to the board. This document that I am presenting today is a culmination of about 5 or 6 months of work from various stakeholder groups, from the board to administration to teachers, students, parents, and various facets of the community. I want you to take your time to read through this and understand it because it's a really rich document. And one thing that it says on the front is, the future of Calumet Public School District 132 built in the vision of its stakeholders. So what I like about it is that everybody had a voice. From the students saying how much they needed to have better food, from parents saying that they wanted to learn more about strategies on supporting their kids academically, to the business community saying we want to have more participation in the school because we have resources to offer. So I'm really excited. I would like to ask the administrative team to stand and be recognized. They all work very diligently to make this happen. Stand up, stand up. They all work very diligently to make this happen. Our district contracted with M&M Consulting, thank you. Our district contracted with M&M Consulting, led by Dr. Gloria Davis, Dr. Brian DeVoe, and Dr. Lisa DeVoe. And they really walked us through this process. And they didn't do it for us, and that's what I appreciate. They really pushed our thinking, they really pushed us to understand what the data meant. So if you look through the document, there's different components of data collection, and then towards the end, there is a set of goals that our district will follow. So the next phase of this process is that we're going to work to extrapolate the key pieces for publication. So we hope to have that done June and July. And then when we come back in August, we're looking to do a real big event to showcase our strategic plan. Also in the book, I think that's the last page, we recognize the board members who contributed who have since retired. So Ms. Carr, thank you for your contribution. Mr. Towers, Ms. Watkins, Almond, and Ms. Ivy, they all played a vital role. So thank you for your contribution to this plan. The administration and staff, we take this very serious because this is what guides our work. This is how we set our goals and our stakes moving forward. So I am looking forward to working with the new Board of Education to implement this strategic plan. And I'm just looking forward to the great things to come from District 132.
And if we need to add some things to it, it's a great plan, thank you, glad you did that. There's some things that are outliers that, so I just wanted to get your sense of, I know that the consultant was not here, and I want to make sure that in fact we go forward, that the accuracy that's in the plan, that we're clear about what's in here, and that this board has some chance to see it. But there are some things that are slightly off that I just want to make sure I get to her before we go live with this document.
No problem, that's fine. Thank you. And finally, we have an update from our data consultant, Dr. Mabel Alfred.
Good evening, Board of Education. Good evening. Good evening, audience. Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for this opportunity, but I've been having fun, big fun, looking at the district's data. I'm sorry, is this useless? Examining the district data, and it is it's a process. So I want to take you through some of the process that I've been going through, as well as some of the findings. These are just summary findings. I am working on and just about completed with a 45-page document to give you a bigger picture of the data, and as well as a dashboard that we will use to actually continue to monitor data. Because we have to begin to look at our data and use our data to drive what we do every day in this institution. So one of the steps that we began to take in the beginning of this process was to collect the data. And we collected data from various sources that I'll tell you about in a bit. We began to disaggregate the data. We separated the data into subgroups, into categories, into cohorts. We organized the data. This may take place on a spreadsheet, and we use Excel because we can create the formulas to manipulate that data. We have to clean the data because the data sometimes when you pull it from state sites and things, it has students on there that may no longer be in the district, or it has some information that you want to get out of the data before you begin to utilize it, as well as communicate and share the data. And this would shed light, it would drive change. And one of the good things about it is I've been working with Mrs. Bates and Mrs. Kimball to build capacity, because I'm going to walk out the door soon, but the work still has to continue here in the district. So I've been working closely with Mrs. Kimball and Mrs. Bates, and that has been a pleasure. So the type of data that I've been working with is demographic data, which is enrollment, mobility, attendance, class size, racial makeup, IEP placement, free and reduced lunch. We've been looking at student learning data, and that's the IAR data, as well as the NWA data. With the IAR, we only looked at 19 and 22 because in 20 and 21, we did not have testing because of COVID. But in terms of NWA, we looked at longitudinal data as well as cohort data, which meant we followed kids, we followed kids as they matriculated through the year. So we took that 8th grade year, we followed them all the way back to 8th grade, to kindergarten. We looked at perception data, and that's our 5 essential data. And that's the data that teachers, parents, as well as students complete data to tell how they feel, what their perception of how the school is operating. And that was very interesting. We also have student process. So we haven't got here, we're on this process now, and we want to begin to look at our programs. We're going to look at our programs to determine if they're working. Because if we're paying thousands of dollars and all of our students are failing in math, then that math program is not working and we have to seek something else. So to look for it, we begin to look at description of trends in performance over time. We actually looked at anywhere between 4 and 9 years worth of data. And those trends included measuring metrics, content areas, grade level, disaggregated groups, cohorts. If I'm going too fast, let me know. So one of the main things we looked at, we wanted to look at the demographic data to see what was going on in the district, the makeup of the district. And currently, when Calumet School District 132, that houses 3 schools, 99.7% minority, 49% female, 51% male. Within the district, 81% of the students are free and reduced lunch, even though this is a CEP site, so that goes down under CEP. English language learners represent about 12.1%, and our special ed is about 15% of our children receiving special ed services. As we look at our summative designation, we see that we have Burr Oak Academy, that is our pre-K to 2 school. You notice I'm saying our, right? Because I own the work, and I invest in the work when I do the work at the site, at the organization, I invest in it. And we are commendable. But at Burr Oak, we are targeted. So we have work to do at Burr Oak. That's just saying one or more student group performing at or below the all student group of the lowest performing 5% of the schools. So it could be special education, it could be our low income students, it could be our EL students. And in terms of Calumet, we're comprehensive. And that is the overall performance of the school is in the lowest 5% of our Title I eligibility. So we want to look at just a little data. This is just a brief data because in your booklets that I will be sending over in a few weeks, you will have all of the data and looking at it and as we deep dive the data. But in the proficiency year of 2022, because that's the last proficiency data that we have from IR, it was spring of 2022, and the following table summarizes assessments evaluated all grade levels and subjects. So if we look at this proficiency data, what do we see? We see that reading is at 9% in Calumet. That means that 91% of our students are not meeting grade level standards. 91%. Math, we're at 3%, which means 97% of our students are not meeting grade level standards. In science, 17. If you look at reading, they went down from, well, we went down from 21 to 22, and we stayed the same at 3% in math. But in science, we went up 3 points. It was 14% in 21, and it's up to 17%. So you see, we have work to do. So that was proficiency. That means grade level. So now we're going to look at growth. Because the only way we're going to make proficiency is that we have to grow. So we're going to look at the growth year 2022 to 23. It's a growth comparison, spring to spring term. So we looked at 1 year to the next, spring to spring. So if you look at this chart, and let me walk over here a minute, you see this is the actual growth that they made at each grade level, that first line. That's the actual growth. If you look at the second one, that's the norm growth. That's what, where it says that we should grow. That's what's normed. So you see in first grade, they actually grew 9.50%, but they normed at 9.9. But they grew. And this is reading. But even though first grade is making more growth, it's normed at more growth. So the higher the grade, the lower the growth. So in 8th grade, they only have to grow 2.51%. Okay, but they only grew 1%. So we're growing, we're not growing enough. And so you see the difference. So the only grade that had a real positive was 4th grade. Let's look at math growth. This is a little different. With math, even though they're normed different, the reading assessment is normed different from the math assessment. So in 8th grade, math was 3.220, where first grade math was 10.13. And don't have kindergarten because we don't have a comparison yet, because kindergarten wasn't here last year. So you see our negative get greater in the area of mathematics, which is at 3% a few slides back, right? That 3% that said 97% of our students are not meeting standards, but they're not growing. They're growing. Let me take that back. We're growing, we're just not growing enough. And this is NWA proficiency in reading. We saw the IAR proficiency. Now we're going to look at NWA proficiency. And you see the proficiency, and this is 2022 proficiency. This is 2023 proficiency. And this is the norm proficiency of where we should be. So you see, we got a lot of negatives. But we have work to do. However, if you look from year to year, we are growing, but we're just not meeting proficiency. We are growing, but we can't make subtle growth. We have to make large growth. That means we have to put rigor into our instruction. We have to have some strategies in place. In terms of math proficiency for NWA, same thing. This is proficiency for 2022. This is proficiency for 2023. And this is where we're normed at. So you see the numbers get greater again in math. But again, we're at 3%. We're growing, we're just not growing enough. So we began to look at the root causes. So we began to look at what could some of the causes be, and begin to prioritize what those causes are. So we began to look at mobility. Was our children transferring out? in the middle of the year or coming in, we begin to look at chronic truancy, attendance. We have an attendance issue. The state threshold for attendance is 95%. We barely make 95%. Well, we don't make it on an average month in any building. So this is something we have to work on. We have to work on our special education in terms of attendance and academics. Our special education attendance is ranging somewhere around 90%. So we have to look at that, because if they're not here, guess what? They can't learn. Our chronic truancy, I'm gonna go back to this because those are kids, and these are all data that I pulled out that could potentially be part of this root cause. Chronic truancy, these are children who have 10% of absence in a school year. We have 176 days of the school year. That means a student is absent 18 days or more. That's huge. So we have to look at that. Chronic truancy is somewhere around 15%. They're saying 15% of our kids are absent more than 10% of the time. We looked at our discipline data, and we looked at it, and there's a lot of discipline referrals. However, we were not able to pull the discipline from the student information system, but the district did a good job of maintaining records over the years that we took our discipline data from, and there was a lot of referrals in the buildings. And we looked at our climate data, which is our 5 essential data. And that data lets us know how the staff is feeling, how the students are feeling. And one ironic thing that I looked at was when asked the students and the staff how they thought we were doing in reading, we had high marks. In math, it was high. It ranked somewhere up at about 70%. But then when you go back and see 3% in math and 9% in reading, there's a disconnect somewhere.
Dr. Alfred, before you go to the next one, with the special ed, is those included, the special ed students that are outsourced that goes to like the courts or co-ops? Is that included in this data?
It's included in enrollment data for special ed, but not in the academic unless they, because most of the time when you send students out, they do not take the IAR. They take a different assessment. But if they do take that assessment, we are accredited for that student. Yes. So some of the recommendations I have is we need a comprehensive MTSS program that covers academic, behavior, as well as SEL, social and emotional learning. We need some reading specialists that's going to pull out our tier 3 students, our top 5 to 10% of students that are not proficient. We want to develop and implement an attendance plan and team because we surely have an attendance issue, not just for students. When we looked at teacher attendance data, it was high as well. We want to examine data trends and patterns ongoing. When you look at someone who says we're doing well in reading and math, and we're at 3% in math, there's a disconnect. So we're not looking at data. We're not looking at what should be driving us. So we need a lot of teacher training and development, a lot. Even as much as how we enter the data. I could tell from looking at the attendance data, we always had perfect attendance in August. That means every child in every classroom was present on the first day of school. So it just may be knowing that what's the difference between attendance and enrollment. Yes.
I'm sorry, quick question. In terms of the recommendations, I see that you have teacher training and development and math and reading and SPED. And so would that not be part of instruction in terms of under concerns?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, that will definitely be part of instruction. I know that Dr. Alexander and his team now are working on Institute Day for the upcoming school year. But we need a lot ongoing teacher training and development. I think I started out years ago as a literacy coach. I know coaching helps because coaching teachers. And I think our teachers, that you can tell by the data and the standard deviation in the data, that we're not differentiating instruction, we're not using small group instruction. So I know that coaches can help pull that together. So those are just some recommendations. And as I stated, coming up is a 45-page document that's going to contain who we are, how we're doing, how do we feel, what are our values and beliefs, and our school processes. And it's a book of all the data, and not only is it going to be in book form, but we also created a dashboard. Well, this dashboard, it's going to look something like this. I just took this off the web, but we're creating a dashboard that we're going to house all the data so that the staff can have the data at their fingertips.
So, Dr. Mabel, can you talk a little bit about that? Y'all know I'm a good data, I'm a nerd here, Alfred, sorry. Can you talk about how you've seen this institutionalized someplace else besides here, and what does those staffing patterns and needs look like? So it's good to have a dashboard, but if you don't have people that can actually gather the data, it becomes problematic.
We will, because I'm not here just pulling data, I'm building capacity. Mrs. Kimball and whoever Dr. Alexander designate will be the data keepers when I leave. So they will be the data keepers. They will be keeping up the dashboard. They will be monitoring the data each day. So we'll have it all set up for Ms. Kimball is really going to be part of the setup process, so she would definitely know, as well as Ms. Bates. Are there any? Yes, ma'am.
So after the data is collected, what plans do you have moving forward in terms of disaggregating it and then having the teachers be able to look at that data, disaggregated data, and actually implement some things in their classroom to support students with?
So one of the things, probably in another month, we're going to see our new IAR data, the preliminary. So we'll begin to disaggregate and use that immediately. We'll work on it with Mrs. Kimball, Ms. Bates over the summer, so when teachers come back, we'll be able to form our professional development around that actual new data. Anyone else? All right. So with that, Madam President, I give my report.
Okay, moving on to consent agendas. In the consent agenda, I'm going to pull 6B, 6D, D as in David, 6E as in Eddie, and, wait, did I say 6?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Oh, please forgive me. I doubled the page, I'm sorry. So, I'm gonna do the correction again. 6A. And 6. Okay, just a 6A. May I have a motion Moved by Consuelo Brown, second.
Can I,
Second by Saquon Goa. Roll call, John.
Brown? Yes. Dixon? Golar? Present. Kimbrough? Yes. Love? Present. Story?
yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Consent agenda items B, C, and D carried.
One, a correction, just really quick. C7, the approval of alley waste service. I thought we was with Republican. Republican? I thought in the contract I saw Republican. Now, is it alley waste service?
It's Allied.
Thank you,
Waste
Allied,
Service.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that is like,
It's the same company.
So it's Republican, okay.
It's
Republican.
Republican and Allied is the same company. Allied is the parent, is that right? Allied is the parent, so Republican, they're the same company.
That's okay, because I was looking in the contract and said Republican.
Yeah.
So that's why I
that's
said.
my error. I did change it, but I don't know what happened on that. Sorry.
All right, just with correction, thank you.
Thank you. So did you do roll call? Yes. Okay. So, moving on to 7, well, actually, the 6A, we'll talk about that in closed session.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we get to 7A and 7B, in light of the presentation that was made today, I'm wondering if there is time for us to table that for
Which one?
7A?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet,
Okay, you get
so
to-
let me, yeah, I've gotten there yet. So we're moving on to 7A. Wait, so you want to table that?
7A and B.
Okay, so moving on to table 7A, 7B, 7D, 7E as in Eddie, and 7G as in George. Seven D, 7E, 7G as in George.
So Madam President, with the, we tabling 7D, the already, I just want to make a comment on it.
You know, go ahead.
So with the 7D, approval of already student assessment. So with this, we have our testing assessment as,
So let me interrupt for 1 second. So can we table those, right? And then move on and approve the other ones?
and then come back.
Then we'll come back. So I want to table those items, John. You got them?
Yeah, we're not, we just go on afterwards.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Well, if you guys want to talk about it, they want to talk about it, so.
I'm actually recommending a moving, I know, I appreciate Dr. Alexander sort of doing this ahead of time. I don't think I am prepared, especially with all this information about the strategic plan and this assessment, to begin to talk about a budget and an organizational chart just yet. I'd like to have us have a special session or conversation, especially for new board members, because this is there's going to be their first budget. I would rather us not try to, and this is, I know, an announcement. I know historically book budgets would be approved in June. We have in the district, and I've been the chief complainer of them not coming out on time. But given the massive change in this board structure, it feels to me like we may need a little bit more time to talk about priorities and decisions about funding. And I don't feel it appropriate to do it at this meeting. So I'd like to move those things because they're in tandem and they do link back to his strategic plan as well as this assessment that we just heard. So I'm suggesting that the organizational chart and the budget conversation be moved to the next, to June.
That's fine. So basically, John, if you can put the 7A and 7B, we're just going to table that until next month. Yes, of course. So can I have a motion to table 7A, 7B? Motion by Sherry Story and second by Consuela Brown. Roll call, John?
Brown? Yes. Dixon? Present. Golar? Present. Kimbrough?
Yes.
Love? Story?
Yeah.
Harris?
Yes. All right, so seven C. May I have a motion? Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approves the implementation of 21st Century Education Teacher STEM Certificate Program in the amount of $70,000 as presented. May I have a motion? Moved by Consuela Brown, second by Sherry Story. Roll call, John?
Brown? Yes. Dixon? Present. Golar? Present. Kimbrough?
Yes.
Love? Present. Story?
Yeah.
Harris?
Yes.
Motion carried. Yes. By saying present.
So for the future, just yes here. Thank you, John. So for 7D as in David, I would like to have a discussion about this. Well, first of all, you know what? No, we're gonna go ahead and vote. So,
Okay, the discussion with,
We have a presentation as well. So everything on the agenda, we have presentations before the board members vote on it.
I didn't see this presentation.
you have it now?
Yes.
But before we go there, my concern, and it's great, but my concern for the iReady student assessment system. We are currently using NWEA, and we looked at the scores for NWEA. So in April, we approved for different curriculums. We approved the Amplifying Science, the Studies Weekly through K through 8, Envision 6 through 8, and English, my perspectives for 6 through 8. Bringing in another tool, another assessment right now, the teachers will have to learn all of these curriculums and then try to figure out the assessment as well. So my recommendation is that we can put this on the burner, give us another year so the teachers can learn all of these, because it's something when you have to learn all these curriculums. So Amplified Science, that's gonna be a new curriculum. Teachers have to get trained on that. The Studies Weekly, a new curriculum. Teachers have to be trained on that. And then you bring in a new assessment tool. So looking at the data from the data analyst, when she gave us her PowerPoint, we have work to do. So changing that right now midstream and then adding on all of these different new curriculums, that's gonna be a lot on the teachers. So my recommendation is that we do not change the test and assessment from NWEA as of yet.
Okay, Ms. Kimberly?
Yeah, I totally agree with that in terms of test prep. And also on the ISB website, they also have, Illinois, what is it, library testing that aligns to Common Core. And so I saw that on there as well. And it's a pretty rigorous piece for the assessment. So perhaps maybe even looking into that first prior to iReady and see if that works first with teachers.
And then I just did a quick, I just wanted to read reviews on this software, and the reviews don't look good for K through 8. It seems like it seems, from the reviews that I've read several reviews, they seem to be not as favorable for K through 8, which is our demographic, and teachers don't seem to be at all thrilled about this particular, so I just wanted to, I'm eager to hear what you all have to say, but I often want to be took into account sort of what is out there publicly about the impact of this particular software on K-3 students.
So instead of,
I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead.
In terms of prior to looking at iReady again, will we perhaps be able to have a demo to look into it and have demonstrations?
Can I respond? So, thank you all for your comments. So the selection of iReady was very strategic, in line with the curriculums that we posted. So across the state of Illinois, there are 3 assessments that are utilized for district level progress monitoring and benchmarking: NWA, STAR, and iReady. Our district currently uses NWA and STAR. iReady is a test that's been around probably 4 or 5 years. It's a system that's been around 4 or 5 years. It's created by the exact same company that makes the state assessment, the IAR. So the reason you go to iReady versus NWA is because iReady is directly aligned to Common Core standards, and it also provides the student direct support, whereas NWA does not. So as you can see, when we report data here in the district, based on our local district level assessment, it looks totally different than the data that's reported by the state. So when the students take the state assessment, our scores are always low. 9% in math, reading, and 3% in math. When you look at the same student who takes NWA, it could say that same student who scored in the 3rd percentile or who failed, IAR is listed in 5 scores. You want to be at a 4. 4 means you're meeting expectations, 5 is you're above. Most of our students score in the 1s and 2s. You have a couple 3s, 1 or 2 4s, and 1 or 2 5s. Most of our students score on the state assessment at 1s and 2s, but on NWA, they can score at the 60, 70, 80th percentile, meaning they're at grade level and they're meeting standards. So there's a true dichotomy between what the test is monitored and what the results give you. So we started this process back in, I want to say January, February. The administrative team went to view a school that was utilizing iReady already. And when they went to the school, they broke down, 1, what does the teacher see? What does the what does the student see? What does the teacher see? And then what data is used from an administrative perspective to make decisions. We strategically selected to push the curriculums that we have because they are aligned to iReady. They're part of the package through Pearson. So we already have been implementing at K-5 the reading and math curriculum. Middle school was kind of sketchy. They implemented it, but they really didn't provide the training. So what we're doing this year was purchasing for everybody, purchasing the training. So for reading and math, we're really not doing a real curriculum adoption. It's more of a curriculum stopgap, making sure everybody has what they need. As it relates, iReady is only a K-8 program. It doesn't do high school or college, it's only K-8. And it's used across the state of Illinois. Most districts are getting away from NWA because, again, it's not aligned to the state assessment, so you get false data. You have a classroom full of kids who are at the 60th, 70th, and 80th percentile, and that's on an adaptive test. So let's talk about this. NWA is adaptive. To say if the kid answers 2 questions right, they'll take them a step higher. If they answer 2 questions wrong, they'll take them back. The state assessment is flat. Everybody gets the exact same thing. So there is no variance, right? So a kid who gets to the 60th, 70th, 80th percentile in NWA, you would expect them to be able to show that same level of proficiency on IAR. They don't. So implementing this assessment really is to support our district. NWA is not serving us well. The other part of it is with iReady, once the student takes the assessment, and we can take iReady as many times as the district wants. Once they take the assessment, now the system has a bank of data that will create individual lessons for the student. NWA does not do that. So we've surveyed the teachers, and Ms. Kimball has a full presentation to go through, but we've gone through a demo, we've had teachers to play with it. We've surveyed the teachers, and overall, the teachers are excited about it because this is something that's going to really close the gap. This is something that's really going to provide us the support and resources we need for our students. So part of the work that Dr. Alfred has been doing, and I got a sneak preview of it from the data dashboard, one of the things she said was, based on what this NWA data looks like, your state data won't move. So we have to look at how we're looking at data differently, and then two, how we're using it. So having iReady to be aligned to your reading and math curriculum with direct application to what's going on, that puts our students 2 feet ahead. I agree with you that it is challenging, as well as when you implement any change. I believe the district's been doing NWA and STAR for years. STAR data, nobody even uses it. So we have to get an assessment that's going to really mean something and be beneficial. So I am firm in my belief that it is time for us to take the step. Based on our data, we really don't have much time to wait a year or a gap year. We really don't have that much time. As you can see, 2 of our 3 schools are listed under state school improvement. Burr Oak is targeted and Calumet is comprehensive. Yes, Burr Oak Academy is what's the term? Say it again. Commendable. But they're commendable by default. The state does not give ratings to schools that are below 3rd grade. So if you look at it overall, our entire district is failing in under school improvement. So at this point, our recommendations from the academics team, this is really a dire emergency. We needed to make sure that all of our teachers have adequate curriculum. A lot of our teachers had textbooks, but there was no pacing guide, there was no scope and sequence, there was no rhyme or reason as to what you were teaching and how. So this year, well, moving into next year, that's what our focus is. How do we make sure that we're teaching the right thing? How do we make sure that our students are actually learning it? And then what assessment metrics are we using to test it out to make sure that we're right? So I would ask you, board, to reconsider your recommendation of holding off. It is vitally important that we put the needs of our students first. And providing them cohesive instruction, providing our teachers with adequate training. Our district, we're doing a whole lot of new things to support our teachers. This year, we've done a lot of professional development, but next year we figured out from what we've done, these are the gaps that we need to fill. And as Ms. Kimbrough said, the instructional lens, that is a huge gap that needs to fill. So assessment is a huge part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander.
So Dr. Amos,
Yes. Wait.
Good evening, everybody. You know, I was just doing some research on this over the last couple of days. They had a lot of negative reviews on this, and I was just trying to see, is it possible that we can get like some demos and research on this particular program, and how well was the feedback from the teachers? And when are we looking to implement this? How fast?
So I'll ask the last question. The implementation would be in the fall. So when students came back in August, probably the 2nd or 3rd week they were here, we would start progress monitoring so that we can see where the student is. We need to see where the kid left in September, and then if they have not read or done any work, how much loss they've had over the summer. And this is going to be the first data set that we utilize. Same thing we do in NWA, but it's the first data set to give our teachers information and guidance. When you talk about the negative reviews, I have not personally seen the negative reviews, so I need to look at that, or please share. But here's the reality. iReady is not easy. Common Core is not easy. The expectations of the Illinois Assessment of Readiness is not easy. So as I conclude my first year here as superintendency, one of the biggest challenges that I think myself and the administration has had is really changing mindsets and expectations, right? If we don't set the bar high, nobody will jump for it. And if we don't set the bar high, we'll never move away from that 3% of our students meeting and exceeding in math, or 9% in reading. So at some point, we have to take drastic measures. I could imagine that a teacher would write a bad review because it's extra work. You have to utilize data in a way that you're not totally used to doing. From a programmatic standpoint, meaning the IT side of it, I know a lot of districts, most of the districts in our immediate area utilize it. So that's definitely something I would do research on, but I don't think that the State Board of Education would be recommending this platform if it was not quality and if it was not aligned to expectations and standards.
All right, thank you, Dr. Alexander.
Ms. Love.
Ms. Love?
How long have you used this program? You know, I'm talking about the
NWA. I believe it's been more than 5 years. We've used NWA for more than 5 years. And so NWA also changes, right? So every so often they change the scores that students need. NWA is not based on a standardized metric of at 4th grade, you should be at this level. NWA is based on norms, which says that for all of the 4th graders across the country who took it, this is where they fell right in the middle. That does not mean it's grade level. And I think that's one of the issues that it has with the state assessment. The state assessment says to be at 4th grade level, you have to have 78% match grade. Everybody, no questions asked, everybody gets the same test. But with NWA, let's say everybody in the country had a terrible day and scored a 5. Well, you look at the score that day, 5 is going to be the norm. So again, NWA and iRating are just not the same test. I mean, it's not even apples to apples.
All right, thanks, Dr. Alexander. Sir, we want to be mindful of the time, so.
Okay, I'm not disregarding iReady. It is very, very rigorous. However, what I'm trying to let you all know is that the teachers, the teachers have to learn these curriculums. And we looked at the data now, we have NWEA. And to your point for NWEA, Dr. Alexander, they do have a student profile report, and in the student profile report, it shows where the students are, where their deficits are, and then you can look at the report and work with the students on that level. And it also gives a learning continuum, meaning that this is where my student is, this is the skills that the students are about to develop. So what I'm saying, what I'm hearing, looking at the data, and we use it in WEA, it wasn't used with Fidelity. So it's a lot of training that has to be involved. So why change the assessment tool now when teachers have to learn the curriculum for Amplified Science? They have to learn Studies Weekly. They have to learn Envision for 6 through 8. They have to learn My Perspectives for 6 through 8. Now they have to understand how to do this data when at least they can look at the data for NWEA and figure out, okay, this is where my students stand. So I'm asking if we can just...
We can vote on it. Vote on it, and then we can just revisit this, Dr. Alexander.
So that's what I just want to say, because there's more tools, and I just want to clear it up. There's more tools in NWEA that maybe the school district haven't tapped into. That's it.
So,
Ms. Love.
Ms. Love?
If we have been using this program for more than 5 years, what have the teachers been doing? They should have been working on everything that this program gives. I'm talking about the NWA. That's the one I'm talking about. And so maybe it is time for something new, or combine the two, or one of, because anytime something is over 5 years and you have these scores, something is wrong. The teachers have not applied themselves to learn what is supposed to be done with these tests. So maybe we need a change, and maybe they need, with the new stuff, they will have to learn, because we're different. We're not going to accept what they did 5 years ago with the same stuff. And so let them work. It'll be all right. They'll survive.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
can
Love.
Yeah, and I hear you, Ms. Love. I agree. And we had different administration. And part of my antsiness too is that we got a whole bunch of stuff today. Some of this I'm still confused. Like, y'all knew this was happening. Like, I don't know why we're discussing it today. So I'm a little. That's part of what I'm a little troubled by this. The other piece I do agree with Board Member Clark that, and I don't know what this presentation yields, but I'd like to, in Miss Story, I'd like to see what we could use. It feels to me, if I look at the climate survey, if I hear, we keep voting on stuff, and we always, our hair is on fire. I understand that, and I understand the urgency, but it just feels to me like it's always something new, and not enough time to kind of sort of have a clear, concise plan as to why we're doing what we're doing and when we're doing what we're doing. And so for that, I mean, we'll go ahead and take a vote, if you
Okay.
like.
All right, so with the, well, we want to be mindful of the topic.
I need to know, did the staff members go over this program?
I don't know, Ms.
Well,
Yes, ma'am. So we did multiple sessions of demo. They came out, the staff came to visit it. They played with the program, saw how it worked. And we took, we talked to them, asked their perceptions. And you had a couple people who, no, I don't want to learn anything new. You expect that would change. But for the most heavy-weighted data was, I'm looking forward to this because NWA is not working. We need other resources to be able to tap into our students. So one thing that Ms. Story said, you were totally right about all of the facets that NWA has. The difference between NWA and iReady is that NWA would just give you a list. Here's where your kid is, teach them this. iReady provides that service. So the kid logs on every single day and you go into your iReady system and you're actually getting practice. So the teacher does not have to assign it. It's assigned to you based on the data. So in some aspects, let's say the teacher is not trained and doesn't know. iReady accommodates for that already because based on your scores, based on your deficits, this is what we're gonna give you to work on. And then it kicks out reports to tell the teacher, Marcus started here, this is how much work he's done 55 activities, he's grown from point A to point J. We expected him to go from A to M, but he got to J, which means the gap is closing. We just need to put some more systems and structures in place. So you're right, NWA has a lot to do. However, it's in a way that requires the teacher to do it on their own. iReady supports the teacher in that it's already there, built into the system.
All right, thank you. So, suggested hereby move that the Board of Education approves the implementation of the iReady Student Assessment System Agreement in the amount of $69,657 as presented. May I have a motion? May I have a motion? May I have a motion? Moved by Consuelo Brown, second. Second by Mr. Gollard. John, may I have a roll call?
Brown? No. Dixon? No. Golar? No. Kimbrough? No. Love? No. Story? No. Harris?
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you. E, 7E, approval of excess 401 student accountability system implementation of Burr Oak Academy and Burr Oak. I would like to table this. Hold on a second. All right, I would like to table this to after closed session. So, may I have a motion? Move by Consuelo Brown, second by Sherry Story. The table 7E. We're gonna bring it back. Yes. 7, okay, I'm sorry, roll call, John. It was motion by Consuelo Brown and second by Sherry Story. You're welcome.
Dixon?
Yes.
Golar?
Yes.
Kimbrough?
Sorry, this is the table.
This is tabled.
Yes, yes.
Love? Yes. Story? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Motion tabled.
Okay, 7F as in Frank. So approval of Burr Oak School pavement bid award. Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approves Matthew Paving and Company to provide the boiler replacement at Burr Oak School in the amount of $129,450. May I have a motion? Moved by Consuelo Brown. Second by Sherry Story. Roll call, John?
Brown? Yes. Dixon? Yes. Golar?
Yes.
Kimbrough?
They didn't hear you. You want to pass it?
All right. Love?
Yes.
Story?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kimbrough?
You can abstain. Yes, she abstained.
Okay, all right, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. 7G, approval. Okay, so I want to table this, 7G. May I have roll call, please? Motion, I'm sorry. Moved by Consuelo Brown, second by Mr. Golar.
Brown? Yes. Dixon?
Yes.
Golar?
Yes.
Kimbrough?
Yes.
Love?
Yes.
Story?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Motion tabled.
Thank you. Public comments. If you intend to speak, please fill out completely a question and comment form and present it to the superintendent secretary at this time. The board will be prepared to address those comments related to the agenda within a reasonable time. However, the comments may be forwarded to the superintendent for an individual response. No other discussions or actions will take place. Please remain seated until you are recognized by the board president. Every person intending to speak must come to the podium to state your name, comments, and questions. And I would like to ask if you guys can be very respectful of comments. Thank you so much.
First up, we have Mr. Christopher Towers.
Hey, Mr. Towers, glad to see you.
Really quick, I'll probably use up my whole 3 minutes. My name is Chris Towers. I'm here as a parent of the district. First, I want to say off subject that this has been one of the most informative board meetings I've ever been to. Thanks Dr. Alexander, my chair. Bill Consuelo was very instrumental in us pushing the data. It's very important that we learn the data of our district and hear the truth. What's really going on. If you don't know what's going on, you really can't fix it. So I'm very excited about what I've heard today. But I'm here today standing as a parent. I just want to, it's very important that you know when I first got on the board, I always felt it was important to have a parent on the board. And that's one of the reasons why I got on the board. But since there's not, I don't know if there's a parent on the board, but I want the board to please be mindful of the parents' time, be communication. Some of you probably don't know that I have a daughter that's graduating this year. I very rarely talk about my children that was in the district. I had a daughter graduated last year, and I had a daughter graduating this year. I'm standing here because I received a few phone calls from parents regarding that there was a change of the graduation date. Graduation time. First, I understand that there's no perfect time for graduation. If you got over 100 children, that's 2 parents, so you got the teachers, you got the staff, you got over 500 people trying to coordinate the schedule, right? There's never been a good time. But I received a letter at home, probably back in February or March, and we had a time for the graduation, I think it was at 10 o'clock. It was different from what it had been in the previous years, but 10 o'clock, myself, like other parents and other people, whatever, made arrangements to attend a child graduation at 10 o'clock. I got a letter, my kid came home with a letter last week said the graduation time has been changed to 5:30. I was on the board, so I haven't been a part of any conversation at that time or knew of any issues that was had. So I would just hope that the time of that graduation was changed because of parents or need of the faculty or the staff. I hope that's what the change was. I hope that it was not for the convenience of any board members, because the graduation, in my opinion, is for the students who have worked hard and the teachers who have prepared them in administration. I think that as a parent, whatever the time it was, we're going to make an availability to be at our children's graduation. But I do feel that if you give a time, let that be the time, because if you were to change from 10 to 12, that's something. But 10 to 5:30, that is different. We live in Chicago. There's no perfect time. We have people work all schedules of the day in this city. So just keep that in mind when we go forward. Let's keep the parents' time respectful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Towers.
Next up is Ms. Janice Harrison.
Hello, Ms. Harrison.
Good evening. I have a couple of things I want to hit on. First of all, I want to hit on May 1st, board meeting. I was at that board meeting, and this is the agenda. There's nothing on here about policy. There's nothing on here about too much of anything. Then I go online, and this is the agenda. You cannot put a different agenda online. When I'm sitting up here at this meeting, there was nothing on here about policy, but policy is out there online. That you have violated the Open Meetings Act tremendously. You cannot do that. And I'm gonna tell you, if this happens again, I'm gonna report you all. You cannot give me an agenda with nothing on it, and then you go out there and put all of this stuff on it. Policies. Can't do it. And you can't say, motion to approve, item discussed during closed session. Policies is open session. You can't come out and say, we approve them, and you don't put on, you don't label what policies you're talking about. And I have another issue. I'm so tired of writing for you because I had to write it for you for this one. And I had to write it for you for the one I'm speaking on now. I requested, because the night that we were there, they called out all these names that I have here. And their year of their contract. These are hefty salaries. I mean, they are really hefty salaries. And one salary caught my eye. Dr. Natasha Harris, who has been in this district for 17 years. And she makes less than a person who's been in this district 1 year. And she covers all of these schools. There's something wrong when you do stuff like this. You know, Blue Island lost good teachers doing garbage like this. And I mean, they lost them. They went to other districts. I know that they got $10,000 increase. They are in demand, especially. You're gonna mess around and you're not gonna have any people in this district. You have to do what's right, and this is not right. No kind of way.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. John?
Next up is Ms. Price.
Was that nice advice?
Mrs. Harrison is right. You're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And it just amazes me that not many of you anymore, because we've got like all these new board members, have been on the board 10, 13 years and still don't know how to conduct a meeting. On May 4th, you had a meeting, and item number 15 was committee appointments. I watched the video of that meeting, which, by the way, was posted at 1 o'clock this afternoon from May 4th. So I'm wondering what takes so long to upload the videos to YouTube. But let me get back to my point. Item number 15 was committee appointments. And the president of the board said, we're not going to do that now. We're going to do that at the next regular meeting. You can't do that. You cannot just sit there and decide, oh, we're going to do this at the next meeting. You didn't call for a motion. Nobody voted to move it. And I'm interested in what Ms. Harrison referred to. What happened to all of the policies that were listed on May 1st? What happened to those policies? Did you vote on them? Because if you discussed it in closed session, that was a violation. If you decided to adopt those policies in closed session, that was a violation of the Open Meetings Act. And she's right. You cannot come out here and call for a motion to vote on what was discussed in closed session. There is no such thing. It has to be on the agenda. So please be aware that you are in violation of the Open Meetings Act. You are. There's no transparency. I'm trying to figure out what takes so long to upload a video. The meeting from May 4th was uploaded at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
Next visitor is Ms. McClendon.
Good evening, Ms. McClendon.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to say the presentation was super. And because it gave me some answers that I've been concerned about over the years. Why is it that our children are not being educated? I wanted to know why, because the standards that have been set here in this district is too low. They are absolutely too low. My thing is this, because our children go to other schools, they're not prepared. Then they end up in alternative schools. Then you wonder why they're not doing this, because anytime you cannot reach the standards of someone else, you're going to act out in some other way. Now, my thing is to the board and to anybody else, this is nothing personal, because I don't know the staff over here. I come to the meeting, I don't know anybody. But if you want to stay where you're at, you're going to remain doing the same thing. It's time for a change. I believe God put this board up here to make a change in this district for the students and the community. And if you have staff that's not qualified, I don't care who it is, it could be my sister, it could be whoever. If they're not qualified to meet the need of these kids, you need to get somebody who is, and not only that, pay them what they're worth. But my thing is, that we've been doing this, say, 5 years. You know, I've been here longer than that. And they've been saying they're growing. Let me tell you this. The last administration had a low standard for our kids. The superintendent, a low standard. You fell into that trap. And guess what? It's continuing. You got to get a new mindset for our kids. Another thing to the board I would like to say is that a whole year, where's the treasury report? Where is, what's his name? I may need another minute, but what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? She over the monies. Do you know, you paying bills, but how much money is in this district? A whole year. It's time to fire people. a whole year and you can't bring a balance to this community as to how much money we have, something's wrong with that. We are taxpayers. Another thing, how much money is invested in this community, this school district money? Nobody knows. The board done went a whole year. You don't know how much money we have. You don't know anything. You need to look into finding another person who is qualified to get the job done in this district. Another thing I'm concerned about is, I don't know what the curriculum of the kids in the school, but I want you to be mindful of, don't bring the garbage into the school that teaching our kids about sex and about racism and all that other crap. They need to learn how to read, they need to learn how to write, they need math. It's time for us to stand up for our children. We're sending our kids out there not prepared. They're not prepared, and if the staff are not qualified, if the teachers are not qualified, get somebody that is. Get the people that are.
Thank you, Ms.
And I commend you for what you said today, because I've been wondering, that little growth, if you sixth grade and grew from second to third, that's a growth, but that's not bringing you to where you need to be. This is supposed to be an independent child study for our kids to improve. So I appreciate what you did. Now we're getting some answers. So you all do your job.
Thank you, Mrs. McClendon.
Okay. Love you guys. I don't hate nobody. I just get somebody got to tell you. Okay.
John. Who? Okay.
Come on down.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I was on the board when we had a discussion about Ed Will, which is something new in this district. And I did my homework on it. And I call it the hit list, because I got a list of some of the people that's at Will. John Perez is on here. He's been in the district 12 years. And Ed Will, from my understanding, is that anytime you can tell him bye-bye, with no reason at all. You can say bye-bye. The board, I learned one thing in my experience being on the board. The board is driven by policies. If everybody knows the policies and reading the policies, we're all on the same page. But this Ed Will, to me, sounds like Dr. Alexander has a hand to let an individual go without any reason. If the board decides that they want Ed Will implemented in this district, we need something in writing from the board's attorney in regards to Ed Will. Because I'm looking at this Ed Will, and John Perez has a 1-year contract. Kimberly Marion has 1-year contract. She's on here. People that's been dedicated in this community, helping the staff, and now at Will, you can tell them bye-bye without any reason. I don't think it's fair. Madam President, I beg of you the board to have a discussion with the attorney and have something written in a policy or something in writing. Because just to come in one day and tell any individual you don't have a job and you don't have to give a reason why they don't have a job. That Ed Will, it's not fair. It's never been implemented in this community. And if the board is going to have such a thing, they need something in writing and they need to have a discussion with the attorney. Thank you.
Moving on, new business, FOIA update.
Yes, we actually had, we had two. Yes, and they have been recently closed out or responded to. One was from Ms. Harrison, and the other was from a gentleman with Rock Wallace. And those have both been responded to.
Okay, thank you. Board members report, does anyone have anything to say? No? Ms. Foley?
Yes, I just want to say great report. Dr. Alford, that's what we was looking for, to try to dig deep into the data. And now that we see, and we definitely have work to do. And just for the staff, we have to learn those different components of what we use with the test and how we can differentiate with those students, because we all learn different. Everybody on this board, we learn different. I'm a visual person, I'm a visual learner, I have to read it. Even though you're talking to me, I have to read it, so we all learn different. So great presentation. And I just want to say to the administrative staff, it was a great luncheon. I was glad I was able to attend that. So it was great with that. I was ready to dance with the students, but I see most of them left after the awards. But good job well done with the luncheon. That was really, really nice. And last but not least, we are on the last stretch of students leaving. So go ahead, we're gonna give you kudos. I'm gonna clap for you because the last week is gonna be kind of hard. So I'm gonna clap for you, but we're in the last week in the last stretch. So just put on your hats and go all in with them, because this is our last week. Well, they do have one more week. This is it. So just to you all, kudos to your hats off. Tip the hats off to you. Thank you.
Ms. Love?
There is a correction about the time length that we've been up here. We just started this month. And the others, I think the length of time is 3 years. So everyone up here is new, 2 years. So we're all brand new. So we don't know anything. We know something, but we don't know what you think we should know. I mean, we just got installed a couple weeks ago. So give us time and we will be on target.
All right. Anyone else?
And I apologize, we missed Teacher Appreciation Week, so I apologize. Belated happy Teachers Appreciation. Without you all, and I know there was a little bit of a beating here in terms of scores, but I understand that without you all, this place could not operate. And so with that, enormous gratitude to the teachers out there, whether you were in a classroom or not. Thank you, staff. I do feel like the house feels a little bit on fire right now, and I'm hoping that that's, I think that's a function of folks leaving and coming. So I do hope that we are able to storm and norm. For the new board members, I can't wait. It feels like we are in for a treat here, and some new blood and some new vision. So I welcome my colleagues. I look forward to other board member meetings with you, and I appreciate the way you've come to this process in this forum. So thank you and welcome.
All right, anybody else? Okay, moving on to committee appointments. So the policy committee, pretty much, that will be myself and John. And because you're only meeting quarterly, you're not voting on policies every month. So that will be done quarterly, moving the policies that's needing to be passed, and anything else that needs to be tweaked or whatever, it will be done and brought to the board for conversation. So myself and John Perez. But the finance committee, I did state that we would have that, but talking with a few of the board members, and we're gonna add that with the committee of the whole, in which everyone can be a part of that until the new members are much aware of the process. So the committee of the whole will be pretty much everybody being a part of that meeting, and which is the finance, buildings and grounds, and I think that's it.
Ms. Harris, I do remind us that we can't have that until we vote on it.
Right, no, so, right. Thank you. Thank you. So, the Illinois Association of School Board, they do have a delegate assembly representative. So I did say that Ms. Story can be our delegate. So you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to 20, excuse me,
We have to have a motion.
excuse me. 2023 CUBE Conference in Chicago. Every year we have a conference. Dr. Alexander is here.
We put on the agenda today to discuss the 2023 Council of Urban School Boards as part of the National School Board Association. The conference this year will be in Chicago in September. It is open to all board members. Even though Illinois is not a member district of the School Board Association, they do allow individual districts to register. So it's on the agenda tonight to seek interest. If anybody wants to attend, we will go back and gather costs. It just opened up this week, so we'll gather all the costs and then take the names. And when we come back in June, it will be on the agenda for approval.
All right, thank you. So moving on to 10, closed session. Motion to exit closed session. So we are hereby move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the discussion pursuant to Section 2C3 of the Open Meetings Act to consider the reason establishing or filling a vacancy on the public body, information regarding appointment, employment, or dismissal of an employee or officer contracts, grievances, negotiations, pending, threatened, or imminent litigation, real estate, student discipline, superintendent, and/or board evaluation performances. May I have a motion? Moved by Sherry Story, second. Second by Mr. Goller. Roll call, John?
Yes. Brown? Yes. Dixon? Yes. Golar?
Yes.
Kimbrough? Yes. Love? Yes. Story? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Motion carried at 7:36.
All right, thank you.